I never thought I'd end up here, pouring my heart out to strangers online. But I need advice because I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I'm Sophia, 25 years old and the oldest child in my family. Like most older siblings, I've always been the responsible one. Good grades, no trouble, always dependable. I've worked really hard to get where I am today. Since I was a little girl, I've dreamed of working in fashion. It wasn't just some hobby, it lit me up inside like nothing else. I'd spend hours drawing designs, flipping through fashion magazines, and watching designer interviews. Some people might call it a pipe dream, but to me, it was a fire I couldn't put out. In college, I worked my butt off while my friends were out partying. I was in my dorm sketching, researching trends, and building my portfolio. I got an internship at a small boutique just to get my foot in the door. After graduation, I landed an internship at a big fashion brand. It wasn't glamorous, but it was my chance. Everything was looking up. I was so close to making it big, until my family threw a wrench in my plans. It started when I got an email about a job offer. This was the opportunity I'd worked my whole life for. A famous fashion company was offering me a full-time position with amazing pay. My dream was about to come true. I couldn't wait to tell my mom. She'd always been supportive, or at least I thought so. So I sat her down one evening and showed her the email. "Mom, look, this is it. They offered me the position, I made it." I was so excited I could barely sit still. She looked at me, but her face wasn't what I expected. She didn't look happy or proud. She looked disappointed. "You're being selfish, Sophia. You know that, right?" she said, way too calmly. I blinked. "What? I just got my dream job. I worked for this. I earned this." "Your sister needs you, Sophia," she said. "She's going through a tough time, and you're just going to leave us behind for a job that doesn't really matter? You're selfish." I was stunned. This wasn't how I thought this conversation would go. I had worked my entire life for this moment. I had given up so much, and now that I finally had my chance, my mom was calling me selfish. "Mom, I started, but she cut me off. You're abandoning your family. Your father's health is getting worse, and Lily is struggling. You're the older sister, Sophia. Don't you think you should be here for them?" Lily, my younger sister, was 21. She'd always been the free spirit of the family, doing whatever she wanted with no consequences. While I was busting my butt to get ahead, Lily was content to live at home, drop out of community college, and do absolutely nothing with her life. And now, my mom was asking me to throw away my dreams to take care of her. "Mom, Lily is an adult," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "She needs to learn how to take care of herself. I can't keep putting my life on hold for her." "You're being so inconsiderate," she repeated, like I didn't have a choice. "I'm asking you to be here for your family. What's more important than family, Sophia?" That's when I felt my stomach drop. My family had always leaned on me to pick up the slack, but I had finally reached my breaking point. I didn't want to be the one always expected to sacrifice everything. I wanted to live my own life. I left that night. The next day, I packed my things, made sure everything was in order, and booked a one-way flight to New York. I wasn't even sure what I was doing exactly, but I knew I couldn't stay there anymore. I couldn't live for them any longer. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Instead, I left a simple note on the kitchen counter. "Mom asterisk, I can't do this anymore. I've spent my whole life putting everyone else first, but it's time for me to live for myself. I'm leaving, and I won't be coming back soon. I hope you can understand. Sophia asterisk. I left everything behind. My family, my hometown, my old life, and started over. I found a small apartment in Brooklyn, and within weeks I was settling in. New job, new city, new people. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was finally living for me. But of course, that wasn't the end. About a week after I'd left, the calls started coming. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, and at first I thought maybe my mom just missed me. But no, it was worse. The first message came from my mom. "Why are you doing this to us, Sophia? We need you here. You can't just leave us while Lily spirals. Please come home." Then came a text from Lily. "Please, Sophia, I'm trying, but I don't know what to do. Mom's falling apart. Please just come back. I can't do this alone." And after that came the guilt. I thought I could shut it all out. I really did. But my mom's voice on the other end of the line made it harder to ignore. How could you be so selfish, Sophia? After everything we've done for you, you just leave. Lily's lost without you. We're all lost without you. I didn't know how to respond. My family had always been toxic, but now I was being painted as the bad guy, the one who abandoned them. It all came to a head last week. My mom sent me a long email, almost like a final plea. Your dad's health is getting worse, and Lily is more lost than ever. You say you left to find yourself, but what you're really doing is running away from your responsibilities. I hope you don't regret this when it's too late. It hit me hard. The days after my mom's email were rough. I was trying to focus on my new job and getting used to life in New York, but every time I sat down to work, I couldn't stop thinking about what my mom had said. You'll regret this when it's too late. Those words haunted me. Was I being too hasty? Was I turning my back on my family when they needed me most? It didn't help that every time I checked my phone, there were more messages from Lily and my mom. More calls, more guilt trips. Please, Sophia, don't make us choose. Sophia, mom's falling apart and you don't even care. Should I tell Dad you're ignoring us too? At first, I ignored them. I thought the best thing I could do was focus on my new life and let them sort out their own problems. But then I saw a picture that Lily posted on social media. It was of her and Dad sitting together on the couch, looking like they were struggling just to keep it together. Dad was smiling weakly, but I could tell it wasn't genuine. He had been dealing with health issues for years, and the stress of everything seemed to be wearing him down. I felt this heavy knot in my stomach. I wanted to reach out. I wanted to pick up the phone and tell Lily I was coming home to help. But then, the voice inside me, the one that had pushed me to make this huge change, reminded me of why I left in the first place. I couldn't just be the fixer anymore. I couldn't be the one always putting everyone else's needs before my own. But that didn't mean I didn't care. I cared about them. I really did. But could I live with the constant pressure of being the savior they always expected me to be? I wasn't sure. I spent a whole week in this limbo. Working, trying to stay focused, but every evening when I finally had time to breathe, I found myself staring at my phone, debating whether or not I should respond. I didn't want to give in, but the thought of my dad's health getting worse, of Lily being so lost, it tore me apart. Finally, I decided to call my mom. I needed to hear her voice, even if I knew it might just make things worse. I sat on my bed, took a deep breath, and dialed her number. "Mom," I said when she picked up, "I got your email. We need to talk." Her voice was shaky, almost as if she'd been crying. "Oh, thank God. Sophia, we've been worried sick. I'm so glad you finally decided to listen." I didn't want to argue, not yet. I was trying to keep my emotions in check. "I haven't made any decisions yet, but I'm not just going to come running back because you say so. You have to understand that I need to live my own life. I've worked for this." "I know, Sophia, I know, but this isn't just about you anymore. Your sister is falling apart. Your father doesn't have much time left. Do you really want to just walk away from us forever?" Her words cut deep. I wanted to scream at her that I was doing all this to make my life better, but I held it in. I tried to keep my voice steady, but it wavered. "I don't know if I can come back. I don't know if it's even possible to go back to what we had. I need time. I can't be everything for everyone anymore." "You're all we've got left, Sophia," she said, almost pleading. "I'm begging you, come home." "I can't," I whispered, and for a moment, I wasn't sure if I even believed the words I was saying. The silence between us felt unbearable. I could tell she didn't know how to respond. She didn't want to accept that I might not come back. But the truth was, I didn't know what was next for me, or if I was ever going to return home. After a long pause, she sighed, "I don't know what to say. I thought I raised you better than this." I could feel the anger in her voice. It wasn't the first time she'd said something like that, but this time, it hit harder. "I don't want to hurt you, Mom, but I can't keep sacrificing myself for you or Lily. You've always expected me to be the responsible one, the one who does everything right, but I'm not happy like this. I'm not myself anymore. I'm just asking you to help us, Sophia, that's all. I am helping by not giving up my dreams for everyone else. I'm doing this for me. If you can't understand that, then maybe I need to figure out what kind of family I really have." There was another long silence, and this time, it was my mom who hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone in my hand. I don't even know what I expected from that conversation. I thought maybe we could come to some understanding, but instead, it felt like I just confirmed everything I'd been feeling. That no matter how much I did for them, it would never be enough. A few hours later, I got another message from Lily. "Sophia, please, I don't know how to do this without you. You said you were going to be there for me. Please don't leave me. We need you." I didn't know how to respond. I just stared at the screen. Was I really leaving my sister behind? Was I being too harsh by holding my ground? But I couldn't go back to the girl who gave up everything for others. I couldn't let that happen again. So I did something I thought I would never do. I didn't respond to her message. I didn't call her. Instead, I sat in my apartment, closed my eyes, and tried to block it all out for a moment, tried to just breathe. The next few days were a blur. I threw myself into my work even more than before, trying to drown out the voice in the back of my head. My phone was constantly buzzing with texts and emails, but I just couldn't bring myself to respond. I knew if I did, I'd cave. And caving meant going back to everything I was trying to escape. But it wasn't easy. Every time I saw something that reminded me of my family, an old photo, a familiar song, even a stupid meme Lily would have sent me if I had just answered, I felt this unbearable ache in my chest. Was I doing the right thing? Was I really choosing myself over my family? It was hard to ignore how manipulative they were becoming. Lily sent me another message a few days later, and this time it was less pleading and more demanding. "You're being selfish, Sophia. You know that, right? You know Dad doesn't have much time left. Mom is a mess, and you're just off living your life like none of this matters." I felt a pain in my chest. I didn't want to be seen as heartless, but at the same time, I couldn't let her guilt trip me back home. I knew what I was doing was hard on them, but I couldn't let it be my problem anymore. I had spent my whole life trying to fix everything for everyone else, and it was destroying me. I didn't respond to Lily. Instead, I went out with some new friends to a bar in the city that I'd been wanting to try. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe without the weight of my family's expectations on my shoulders. My friends were supportive. They didn't know the full story, but they could tell something was off. They just told me to do what was best for me. But then something unexpected happened. I got a call from my dad. At first, I didn't pick up. I had no idea what to expect. Would it be more guilt? More pressure to come back? Would he beg me to return like Mom had? But after a few seconds, I picked up the phone, my heart racing. "Hey, Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Sophia," his voice was soft but tired. "I've been meaning to talk to you about everything that's going on." I took a deep breath. "I've been busy, Dad. What's up?" There was a long pause. I could hear the sound of him coughing in the background. His health had been getting worse for months, and I could tell it wasn't good. "I know you're upset with us. I know your mom and Lily are being difficult, but I want you to know that I don't want you to feel guilty. You've worked hard for this opportunity, and I don't want you to think you owe us anything. I just want you to be happy." His words hit me harder than I expected. I had always seen him as the one person who would never ask me for anything. He had always been my rock, the one who told me to follow my dreams and not let anyone hold me back. "I'm not upset, Dad," I said quietly. I don't know what to do anymore. I've been putting everyone else first for so long, and now I don't even know who I am. I had to leave or I'd lose myself completely." "I get it, Sophia. I really do," he said softly. "But just don't forget us. And if you ever want to come home, know that the door is always open." It was the first time I felt like someone wasn't just expecting me to be the responsible one. My dad had always been there for me, no matter what. But this felt different. It felt like permission to live my life without feeling guilty. But then another bombshell dropped. I hung up the phone with my dad, trying to process everything when my phone buzzed again. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered it anyway. "Is this Sophia?" the voice on the other end asked. "Yeah, who's this?" "This is Jennifer from the law firm. I'm calling about your mother's will." My heart stopped. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your mother's will? Yes. We've been trying to get in touch with you. Your mom has requested a meeting with you about her estate. She'd like to discuss some things with you." I froze. My mom had mentioned her will before, but I never thought it would be something I had to deal with now. My head was spinning. What did this have to do with me? What did she want to discuss? I didn't know anything about this. When is the meeting?" Tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Please let me know if you can make it. I could barely breathe. Was this some kind of last attempt to get me to come back, or was it something else? The rest of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My dad's call had left me conflicted, but now this? What was my mom planning? I didn't know what to think anymore. And so, I found myself standing in front of my apartment the next day, looking at the clock on my phone, wondering if I should go to that meeting. Part of me wanted to avoid it if it was another way for her to manipulate me, but another part of me felt like I couldn't run from it. I had to know what was going on. I took a deep breath, made my decision, and got in a cab to the law office. I arrived at the law office around 1:45 p.m. My heart was pounding in my chest, and my hands were sweating. I had no idea what to expect. Maybe it was just another attempt to make me feel guilty. Maybe not. Either way, I knew I had to face it. I entered the glass building and approached the receptionist. She smiled politely and pointed to the elevators. "Ms. Anderson, your appointment is on the 18th floor," she said, and I nodded. Feeling uneasy in my stomach, I rode the elevator in silence, trying to calm myself. When the doors opened, I was led down a hallway with white doors. I barely heard my footsteps as I approached the one marked Jennifer Blackwell-esque. I knocked softly and opened the door. My mom was sitting in one of the leather chairs, looking totally out of place in the clean, polished office. She wasn't crying or demanding, but there was something cold about the way she looked. She glanced up when I entered, and her eyes hardened when she saw me. It was like I was a stranger, not her daughter. "Sophia," she said, her tone sharp and detached, "I'm glad you could make it." I didn't know what to say. The woman sitting in front of me wasn't the mother I knew. She wasn't even the woman I had left behind. There was nothing motherly about her, just a businesswoman sitting across from me with a lawyer by her side. Jennifer, the lawyer, stood up and held out her hand. "Ms. Anderson," she said, giving me a tight smile, "please take a seat." I sat down, my heart pounding. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into some kind of trap. "Let's get straight to the point," Jennifer said, opening a thick file in front of her. She looked at my mom for a brief moment before turning back to me. "As your mother requested, we are reviewing the terms of her will. She has made some big changes recently." My eyes flickered to my mom, who still hadn't said a word, but her eyes were fixed on me. She wasn't looking at me with love. She was barely looking at me at all, like I was an annoyance she had to deal with. It made my stomach twist. Jennifer continued. "In light of recent events, your mother has decided to make some adjustments to who gets what in her will." "What kind of adjustments?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jennifer hesitated. "Well, it appears that your mother has removed you from her will." I froze. My entire world stopped for a moment, the blood draining from my face. I stared at her, the words echoing in my head, but I couldn't understand them. What do you mean?" Jennifer looked at my mother, who now finally spoke up, her voice icy and emotionless. "I've decided that you're no longer getting anything in my will, Sophia. You left us when we needed you. You've chosen your dream over your family. I can't reward that kind of selfishness." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt my breath catch in my chest, my vision blurring. My eyes flicked to Jennifer, hoping she would say something, but she just kept her eyes on the papers in front of her. "I'm sorry, Sophia," my mom continued, her voice distant, "but you made your choice when you abandoned us. Your sister needs more than I can give her now. I won't leave her with nothing. She'll be taken care of." I was shaking now, barely holding myself together. "You're punishing me for wanting to live my own life? You've always told me I should follow my dreams. But when I actually do it, I'm supposed to just sacrifice everything for you." Her eyes narrowed. "No, Sophia, you were supposed to sacrifice everything for your family, not run away and hide behind your so-called dreams." The words stung worse than anything she had ever said to me. The weight of it all, the guilt I had carried for years, the responsibility I had taken on for everyone, suddenly, it was gone. I realized that I had been walking on eggshells my whole life, trying to please her, trying to be the perfect daughter, trying to make everyone happy, all while losing myself. The lawyer cleared her throat, looking uncomfortable. "Sophia, I can't force you to accept this, but as your mother wishes, the new distribution will go into effect as soon as she—" "I get it," I interrupted. "I get it." I stood up abruptly, my mind racing, my heart pounding in my ears. My mom didn't even try to stop me. I turned and walked out, leaving the room, leaving them behind. I didn't look back. The elevator ride down felt like the longest of my life, and when I stepped outside into the cold air, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was it. This was the final straw. I had lost everything for them. My youth, my happiness, my life, and they had just confirmed that nothing I did would ever be enough. And that was when I made a decision. I wasn't going back. I couldn't. I had spent years trying to please them, bending over backward to fulfill their expectations, and all it had ever done was suffocate me. There was no more room for compromise, no more room for guilt. If they were willing to cut me out of their lives so easily, then I had no reason to continue fighting for their approval. I walked away from the law office and didn't look back. The weight in my chest slowly began to lift as I took each step further away from the life I had once known, the life where I had tried to be everything for everyone else. This time, I was doing it for me. I boarded a flight that afternoon, one way, no return ticket, and as the plane took off, I realized that I was free. Free from the expectations, free from the toxic ties. The road ahead was unknown, but it was mine to walk, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. I don't know exactly what's next, but I'm taking control of my life for the first time. I'm going to focus on my career, travel more, and just live. No more worrying about what they think or trying to fix things that aren't my responsibility. I'm curious, though, what do you think? Should I try to rebuild things with my family someday, or just keep moving forward without them?